The Love Life and Lose Weight podcast will teach you the art and science of changing your habits around food. I'm your host, advanced certified weight and life coach, Heather Beardsley. I've helped hundreds of women just like you figure out how to stop dieting, lose weight, and love life on the journey to goal weight and beyond. Hey, it's Heather. Welcome to episode 41 on validation. Just a side note, we had a terrible storm. We've been having terrible storms, meaning like tons of rain. It looks like it's a Category 2 hurricane in the middle of the afternoon. And we had a lightning strike in the backyard. That has taken out our internet. So I'm sitting here hotspotting my phone with this contraption, and I'm recording the podcast on my phone. So if things sound a little different, I am just pivoting like a motherfucker, and we're getting it done. I also want to let you know that this was the first, like two things happened that is so interesting. I just got a notification from my podcast hosting company that Love Life and Lose Weight has now been downloaded over 50,000 times since we started at the beginning of October of 2022, which is a nice little milestone. And that just so happened to coincide with the first day that I was like, I just need a break from podcasting. I'm going to be on vacation next week, and maybe I'll just skip this week. Like, I really indulged in considering it because of, I'm looking for a break. There's a lot to do. We have camp coming up this week, and I'm feeling like I want to be prepared. There's packing to do, all these things. And I tell you this because even if this is your weight loss, if this is your financial goals that you're thinking about, what have you, you're going to inevitably reach a place where you're just like, I just don't want to do what needs being done to get me where I want to go. Like, I just don't want to do it. And my message to you is find a way to do it anyway. I had to get up. I had to find this old microphone. I had to find new batteries. I had to write some notes. Find the thing to plug into my phone and be okay with a podcast, maybe audio-wise, not being the same quality that y'all are used to. I don't know. Maybe it'll turn out fine. Who knows? But, whatever it is that you're after, and I assume for most of you it's weight loss, there's going to be days that you wake up, you don't want to make your plan. You don't want to eat the food you planned. You don't want to wait for hunger before you eat. And you definitely don't want to stop when you're satisfied. You want to keep eating until you're full. And that is when you have the chance to truly become a normal eater. Because normal eaters also think in these terms. They just don't identify as somebody who can't be that person that they are. Normal eater, by definition, has defined themselves as a normal eater. And there's no reason why that you can't think of yourself as just in wanting to get back to your happy weight or normal weight, whatever you want to call it, that from this point forward, you can't call yourself the normal eater that you were, even if that was when you were very young and learning how to eat and your mom was feeding you. Okay? We all came out into this world with a natural sense of what we like to eat and how much to eat. And that is all still within you. So even though you have times when you struggle or you don't feel like it or you feel like it's not going to work, that's exactly the time when you need to find a way just to take the most small little action to the contrary. So let's talk about validation. Validation is, maybe you all have thought about this in terms of like external validation versus internal validation. But when you think about it as a term, you're like, wait, what is that? It's kind of like external validation is like seeking outside of yourself that you know you're okay. Whereas internal validation is a process of sort of knowing that you're okay or that you are hitting a mark of where you want to be. But it's kind of more than that. And it's actually much simpler. There's a simpler way to think about it. Validation is knowing what you think and feel about something in the world. It's a way to kind of like locate your perspective that you want to have on anything, any topic in the world. And this has to do with like the fact that we're human beings with like a conscious awareness. So we have this like computer brain and these senses on our body that allow us to like sense the world around us, like where we are in comparison to other people. Not only our physical proximity, but like how we think in regards to other people, how we appear, how we present ourselves, you know, and our comparative actions in the world compared to others as well. So everything is sort of perspective, right? And our sensory awareness of ourselves in the world really has to do with the sense of awareness. And so, you know, when babies are little, they just think that they're still part of their mother. Mother feeds them and holds them, and they think they're like one and the same as mom. And then, you know, as they go through these stages of development, this awareness comes into the child that, you know, oh, okay, actually I can go in another room and mommy's not with me. And it kind of freaks them out. So they're determining, like, they're validating, I am someone separate than this person who birthed me into the world. And it just keeps going from there, right? And we're always like having this awareness and then judging like how we're doing compared to the people who have influence in our world. And of course, today, you know, the internet makes it very much a small place, and there are endless opportunities to validate our perspective, like where we are compared to other people externally, right? So again, validation, whether it's external or internal, is a knowing about what you think and feel about a certain perspective on something. So it's life feedback that you use to determine where you are in relation to where you want to be, right? Because as soon as you're aware, oh, okay, I'm here and mommy's in the other room, you're like, wait a minute, you see the little kid is just running back in the other room to be with mom. So this sense of like this feedback about your knowing where you are gives you feedback. Okay, do I want to be here or do I want to be somewhere else? And so validation is really like a perspective where like there's an internal check that goes on. Like, do I want to be here or do I want to be there? Because I know I'm here, and now I know that there's somewhere else over there. And we do this with weight, right? I'm a certain weight. My friend is a certain weight. My mother is a certain weight, right? And they're all different. Okay, what weight do I want to be? So let's take this back to the family unit. If you grew up with parental figures that were giving you constant feedback from an authority perspective of like what was right or wrong, you may not have developed your own practice of knowing what you think and feel about life. As if your parents said, the only way to be successful in school is to get straight A's, and you internalize that, then that would be your conditioning, right? And you would sense that my validation for school is on my report card. So that's an external form of validation. You see that when we get conditioning, that outside measures of what's right and wrong are the way to figure out where you want to be, then we completely bypass this internal practice of validation, which is, what am I thinking about this? What am I thinking about this? Myself. What am I feeling about this? Do I even want to get A's in school? Is that important to me? That's self-validation. And everybody's different, right? We all know friends who are academic and love the academic lifestyle, and they're totally into like challenging themselves to get good grades. And then there's other people that we know who cannot stand the school lifestyle. The academic lifestyle does not appeal to them. And so for them, holding themselves to an external validation of success or not in school just doesn't jive. And this is what's happened for so many of us with our bodies and our weight. It's like, we get this conditioning from our parents and the world at large that says, what is the ideal? The straight A's of weight and body. And then we figure out where we are, right? We see ourselves in comparison to the conditioning. And for some of us, it's one and the same. The external ideal matches what we are or how we consider ourselves to be. And then for others of us, this creates a very painful sense of disconnect between how we see ourselves and where we think we should be. And, listen, if you're listening to the podcast, you're part of that group, right? And when I work with my clients and I ask them to tell me, what's your weight story? Like, when was your weight first, like, brought into your awareness that, like, you needed to lose weight or that you had gained weight maybe? Not all my clients gain weight when they're kids, but some do. And they often, the ones who notice that they had a problem with their weight, a perceived problem with their weight, they often tell a story of like, I wasn't even aware of like the differences between my weight and my body, between myself, my siblings, my friends, until some authority figure gave me feedback that I was different and that my body or my weight was not what externally it should be. And it's kind of always like this Garden of Eden moment, in the Bible where Adam and Eve are in the Garden of Eden and they're just unaware that they're just like naked in this garden. And they're just having a great time. And then they eat this apple, right? And then all of a sudden they have this self-consciousness that they're wrong for being naked. And they have to cover up and they're embarrassed and they've done something wrong. This is kind of like the Garden of Eden moment with, external conditioning about weight and body shape. I mean, think about that. It's like we ate an apple and all of a sudden we made ourselves wrong, like for the rest of our lives. And a lot of times, I coach a lot of midlife women. And they often say to me, when I look back on those pictures of myself around that time when I thought I was so overweight, like I look at pictures now and I really wasn't, but I was convinced that I was. And so this is all external validation seeking behavior around weight. And, it is all subjective is what I want you to really consider. That this story that you might have been telling yourself about your weight and how it needs to be fixed and you have to lose weight is still a subjective story. And your practice of validation is really going to show you right now, the one that you have, whether it's more external or internal, as to like what the truth of your story is, the absolute truth. And the only person who knows what the absolute truth of the story is you. And the more focused you are outward of yourself as to what you need to weigh or look like in order to be okay with you, to validate yourself, is going to show me like whether you're equipped to be able to lose weight. I mean, we can all lose weight. I can tell you what to eat. I can tell you what to do. You can lose weight, but you're not going to be able to keep it off unless you have arrived with a practice of self-validation that, and a story about your weight that feels good to you, that you like your reasons for doing it, that it's from your choice and willingness to find a weight that feels better than the one that you are now, not because you're wrong for weighing a number on a gravity measuring machine, but because this is who you want to be in your life. It's a more internally validated practice of regulating your weight because you want to. So, we had this Garden of Eden moment, and, we got messages to think and feel negatively about our weight and our body. So that self-consciousness creeps in and it feels terrible. Like if any of you have had this feeling, I was told when I was young how fat and disgusting my body was by somebody who was really not nice to me, who I was around all the time, and it was terrible. It was really hard. And I know that I internalized part of that. And that's what started my external validation for my weight and my body. And this has been part of, the work of my lifetime. I mean, look what I'm doing for a living. It actually was a great gift because I feel like my story and, that thing that happened to me helped me to bring a lot of good into the world to help other people see their own painful stories and wiggle out of them. So, but when you have that proverbial eating the apple in the Garden of Eden moment and you feel ashamed about who you are, or you believe that you're wrong for your body or your weight, that moment can change a person's life. And it can lead to all of these other ancillary ways of thinking that you're wrong. Like you have the wrong clothes, you have the wrong friends, you need to go to the right school, you have to take the right job, you have to have the right number of kids. And it just goes on and on and on. And so, you can see that this external validation, always looking outside of yourself to see if you're okay, if you're doing the right thing, would naturally bring you to calorie restrictive programs, right? Where they just say, okay, just count the points. As long as you have your right points, you get to feel good about what you're doing. As long as you count the macros or, you count the calories, you're under the right amount of calories, then you get to feel good about what you did that day. Forget that like you were eating food that you didn't even like. You were maybe eating it when you weren't hungry, or you were pushing past normal hunger and starving yourself all day long. None of that matters in an externally validating practice around weight. And it feels terrible. So, the message of those programs is all you have to do is just conform and you'll survive and thrive off of this external validation. The problem is it isn't validating because it doesn't come from you, because it comes from some stupid program that has no idea what you really like to eat or when you're hungry and when you're not. You're not following your own internal locus of control for your life. And so, but anyway, if you have grown up with external validation, what happens is you start to really doubt your abilities. And if you're not told that you're doing well or you're doing the right thing, like we have some members who come in from these other counting programs. They're like, I literally have no idea how to eat when I'm hungry. And I know it sounds like crazy, or maybe for some of you it doesn't, but they've just been walking around slightly over feeding themselves their whole life because they've been restricting, which causes over desire for food. So it creates a paradox where you're always seeking ways to get food in because you have created a distrust with your own body because you're trying to smash in this external diet program into your world and your body and your tastes and preferences for food. And so when you don't trust your own thoughts and feelings and judgments about what you want and what you don't want for your life, you become dependent and needy. And then, you join like our program, No BS, and you say like, I literally don't know how to eat when I'm hungry and stop when I've had enough. I don't know how to feed myself. And, good. You got to learn. And if you ate like that when you were a little baby, you can learn how to do it again. You got to just take the external looking for the validation. You got to bring it in. And just create a relationship with your internal appetite cues and figure out what the fuck you're thinking about. What you truly believe. Forget the calories, forget the points, forget all that stuff. What do you want? What kind of eater do you want to be? So this brings us to the practice of self-validation, which is essential if you're going to lose all your weight and keep it off. Self-validation is a practice that makes successful weight loss sustainable for life. So what is it? It's a practice of being aware of what you think and feel and do that feels right to you. It's like an internal, like a gut check that you can trust and rely on no matter what's going on. So this, with enough practice, what do I think? What do I feel? Am I hungry? Have I had enough? What food do I want to eat? Right? This will take place even if other people think you're wrong, even when others or even your own actions are not in alignment with what you believe is right and your values in the world. So if you never develop self-validation, you'll always be blaming others when things go wrong. You'll blame the diets, you'll blame your parents for, putting a lock on a refrigerator. Yes, some of my clients have told me that their parents had locks on the refrigerator to keep them out. So, yeah, that would be easy to blame the parents. For me, if that happened to me, yeah, that would be easy to blame. But how we think and feel is always taking place in the now. And your responsibility is to your own thoughts and feelings in the now moments now. So when you know what you're thinking and feeling, when you've put in the work to develop an awareness of your habits of thinking, and you've identified different feelings that you have, and you create a capacity for like being with those feelings without needing to resist them or eat over them, you can allow others to think contrary to what you think. You can allow others to be wrong about you. You can put down, your MyFitnessPal and just stop logging those fucking calories and just say, I don't really know how to trust my stomach, but I'm willing to try. So that takes you from external dependence on a program, a counting program to tell you if you're fucking doing a good job in your life. It's insane. You got to put down the external stuff and you got to start looking within about, what do I think? What kind of life do I want? Okay, so I'm going to give you, for your coach homework this week, some good questions to practice self-validation. I mean, I need more practice in this all the time. One of my boom goals was to be on, I wrote it last year in August of 2022. I wrote, I want to be on stage at Life Coach, the Life Coach School Mastermind. And, you know, when I did my review of my boom goals a couple of weeks ago, I wrote down that I thought that this was the worst boom goal that I had ever written in my entire life, because I'm an introvert and public speaking terrifies me. I mean, this is really about me wanting to be seen for who I am, to be validated, for my work to be validated. And guess why I wrote that boom goal? Because I wasn't practicing validating the work that I do on a daily basis. You know, showing up here right now in this quiet moment in my living room with a headset on, speaking into my phone. This is the most validation that I need from anybody in the quiet of my house with my dog next to me. That this work is who I am. It does define me, and not because literally anybody listens to this podcast. It's because I'm compelled to do it. Because I made meaning from my struggles from when I was younger. And I this work is important to me. It's everything to me. I want to help people free themselves from their own practice of external validation that brings them nothing but confusion, overwhelm, and disappointment. And I want you to turn into yourself and trust your body. This is this integrative weight loss that, as I've come to describe it, where you bring your own sensibilities together with your wisdom of your own body and your own internal sense of intuition about what's right for you in your life and your purpose. Okay. Good questions to practice self-validation. Ready? Number 1, what emotion am I feeling? You got to be able to name your emotions that you feel. Sad, angry, overwhelmed, depressed, delighted, joyful. Become really familiar. Get yourself a feelings wheel if you need one. You can Google it. Number 2, in what parts of my body do I feel this emotion? Emotions are energy in motion, emotions. Your body will locate certain emotions in certain places. Okay, you need to be familiar and be able to locate emotions and where they live in your body and create a relationship with them. Number 3, what was I thinking that created this feeling? So emotions, your feelings in your body are like a tuning fork to the thoughts that created them. And the body is this amazing instrument that will emit a vibration of emotion that corresponds to the same vibrational thought that created it. And emotions are designed for us to get our attention so that we can be like, whoa, I'm feeling really pissed off right now. Why am I so pissed? Oh, because I was thinking that dude on Interstate 95 is an asshole who just cut me off. Right? Emotions wake us up. They have messages for us. This is what I'm thinking. Do I want this thought? Does this thought serve me? Do I want to be jacked up in the car about how idiotic other drivers can be, or do I just want to stay in my lane? You know, practice some defensive driving and, you know, cultivate peace and enjoyment out of this ride, right? That's how you figure out what you want for your life. Number 4, is the thought absolutely true or honest, Or is there another side of the story that I'm not considering? So is the thought that I identified absolutely true and honest? Or is there another side of the story that I'm not also considering? So we want to hear both sides of the story, not just one side. Number 5, is what I'm feeling uncomfortable, neutral, or positive feeling? Is what I'm feeling uncomfortable, neutral, or positive? I mean, here's a hint. You want to keep as many of the positive feelings as you can. And try to work your way up from uncomfortable toward neutral so that you can feel a little bit better. Maybe not always, but if you have a choice and you're willing, why not try to move toward a life that feels slightly better? Number 6, is thinking, feeling, and acting this way part of who I want to be? Is thinking, feeling, and acting this way part of who I want to be? Why or why not? This is where you have discernment in your self-validation. It's like, just because you think a thought doesn't mean that you have to keep it. You have free will to think what you want and to focus on what you want. So your brain will automatically think thoughts if you don't do it first. So this is why I always recommend practicing intentional thoughts and intentional feelings. We're going to have a podcast episode soon in the next few weeks about creative visualization to help you do some of that thinking and feeling on purpose. So, okay, number 7. What is this feeling trying to tell me? If this feeling had a message for me, what would it be? Okay, so my battery on my phone is about to run out. So we're going to wrap this up. I have a few final clues to offer you to see if you aren't self-validating and if you need more practice. And this is more like specific to weight loss. There's plenty of ways that you can kind of adopt these to other areas of your life where you might be externally validating versus internally validating or self-validating. But in weight loss, if you're doing some of these things, you need to practice more, okay? Meaning, practice more being aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what your opinion is about what's happening. So that you can either figure out, oh, this isn't what I want, or yes, this is what I want, without needing to look outside of yourself to know those answers. Okay, here's the first clue. Weighing in, losing weight, and still shit-talking yourself. You're not self-validating. You know how to feel about your body. You don't know how to feel about your body when other people give you their opinions about it. If you don't know why you feel a certain way. If you don't know why you're feeling a certain way, you're not aware of what you're thinking that's creating it. So you need more self-awareness on your thoughts. If you feel like you're following your appetite cues, but you still look for that hit you used to get when you counted points or calories, it means you're not having a practice of telling yourself that following your hunger and your satiety cues is exactly how normal eaters eat and how you want to eat. Next clue, if you lose all your weight and you still feel terrible, usually what happens is, like some clients will say to me, well, I think it's just 5 more pounds and then I'll feel better. And then they try to lose 5 more. And it's like, no, you're just not telling yourself that the weight that you're at, that you've reached, is the weight that you want to be because you're chasing a number. Okay, it happens. Let's see. If you think you could just wear a size blah de blah, you'd feel better. External validation. If all you can think about is the number on the scale after weighing in and you forget all about the things that you did and the progress you made from the week before. Yep. More self-validation on Your actual habits of thinking and doing around food count way more than the number that is the result of that. And finally, if you're more focused on how you still haven't lost the weight rather than how much your habits of thinking and acting around food have improved. Okay? So that's it for today. Come visit me on Instagram on the episode, 41 reel. And just give me any feedback or your thoughts, your takeaways, your ahas. And we'll keep the conversation going over there. Okay? Stay focused, and so long.
Hey, if this episode was helpful, then let's connect. Visit hbeardsley.com/subscribe. That's hbeardsley.com/subscribe. You'll get a gift from me, exclusive subscriber content, and advanced notice of in-person events.